Today we're going to be discussing what are the beasts of Revelation. I'm going to start getting more and more into the book of Revelation as I do believe we're in the last days. The last days, that's kind of a generic term that can be used to quantify really any amount of time. But some of my videos will start talking about a narrow time frame because of the parallels of the Bible being connected to real life. It's closer than you think. Now when I say beasts of Revelation, most active Bible readers will know what I'm talking about. I won't be discussing who they are exactly. I think I know. But the specifics of who they are is not important right now. We have to talk about what they are. Some people get this wrong because they don't come at it from a whole Bible approach. First, let's read about the two beasts in chapter 13 in the book of Revelation.
Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshipped the dragon, who gave authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. It was granted to him to make war with his saints and to overcome them. And authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All those who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life, of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and spoke like a dragon. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. He performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast, who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of a beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Let's go back and tackle that first beast. The first beast will make war with the saints, overcome them, and have authority over all the world. That's going to be one scary beast and a bad time to be a Christian. But let's reread and dive into this. And I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. Now lots of active Bible readers will know where this description comes from. The book of Daniel, chapter 7. We'll skip around to read about the type of the beast there. Daniel spoke, saying, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other. The first was like a lion, and suddenly another beast, a second like a bear. After this I looked, and there was another, like a leopard. And then this last beast is a little bit different. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Now if we show Daniel's beast here on the left, then bring in the description of Revelation's first beast, we can see the visions are similar, if not a different version of the same vision. They both include mentions of a lion, bear, leopard, and a beast with 10 horns. One difference between the visions is they are listed exactly in reverse order. And also, the book of Revelation describes its first beast as having the characteristics of 4 beasts, while in Daniel there are 4 different beasts, including the special mention of how terrible the 4th beast would be. Then later in the same chapter of Daniel, it describes the beasts. Those great beasts which are four kings which arise out of the earth. The four great beasts are described as four kings. But then, as we go on in Daniel 7, it goes into more detail about that fourth terrible beast. Then I wished to know the truth about the fourth beast, which was different from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, with its teeth of iron and its nails of bronze, which devoured, broke in pieces, and trampled the residue with its feet, and the 10 horns that were on its head. We know this fourth beast of Daniel is the first beast of Revelation because of the mention of the 10 horns. Then there's going to be a specific horn coming out of the 10 horns. That horn which had eyes and a mouth which spoke pompous words. I was watching, and the same horn was making war against the saints and prevailing against them until the Ancient of Days came, and a judgment was made in favor of the saints of the Most High, and the time came for the saints to possess the kingdom. The horn that comes from the beast to make war against the saints. And then finally, that is the time for the saints to possess the kingdom. Those are definitely the same beast of Revelation in end times. But then the book of Daniel finally describes the fourth beast once and for all. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all other kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, trample it, and break it in pieces. The fourth beast will be a kingdom. Now we just heard this chapter in Daniel describe the beast as kings. But what is a king without the kingdom he rules? And also we heard in Daniel the description of the fourth beast as having 10 horns. Then, when we bring back the first beast of Revelation, we know that this beast is the same as Daniel's because it also has those same 10 horns. So if the fourth beast of Daniel is the same as the first beast of Revelation, then that means that the first beast of Revelation will be a kingdom. A terrible one, but a kingdom. Not the Antichrist.
Some people get confused on this largely because of two things. The first reason some people get the first beast wrong is because of the mortal head wound that was healed in Revelation 13:3. Some people take that the Antichrist will literally come back to life, just as Jesus did. This is how I think it gets fulfilled, since the Bible is clearly calling this beast a kingdom. Well, if a kingdom has a mortal head wound, then it would lose its head, or its king. Then that king would later become king again. Thus the head wound would be healed. And that is how this would be both a kingdom and the mortal head wound being healed gets fulfilled. And then the other reason people get this wrong is because of later in Revelation.
While the bowls of wrath are being poured out, chapter 16 says this, And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. We have the dragon, which we know from Revelation to represent Satan himself, the first beast, which has already been connected as a kingdom in the book of Daniel, and then the false prophet. People think because the second beast is described as a false prophet, he must be a spokesperson for the Antichrist as the first beast. Not at all. A prophet is someone who God has chosen to speak for him. So if the second beast is described as a false prophet, he will be someone falsely claiming to be speaking for God. Make sense? This is the exact opposite of the kingdom of Jesus. You see, Jesus is not only the future king of his kingdom, but was first a prophet sent by God the Father.
Then in Revelation chapter 17, it goes on to describe the 7 heads and 10 horns of the first beast as mountains and kings. I did a 3-part series of videos, the Tower of Pentecost, the 2 pillars, and the 2 witnesses, which identify that great whore, the city of Babylon. And in that video series, it also detailed the location of the great city, based on that 7-mountain description. You're going to have to watch them to see how it fits together.
But let's get back to that second beast in chapter 13, because that is where my focus is, on the Antichrist. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. This is talking about a last kingdom that will dominate earth, and how the Antichrist, the leader of the world, will force you to worship that last kingdom. Of course, the last before the everlasting kingdom of Jesus Christ. But now we go on. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of man. His number is 666. Okay, right there. It clearly describes the beast as the number of a man. We're talking about one specific person. This is the Antichrist, and the numbers of his name will be 666. Now, some people say that 666 is a symbolic number, since God's perfect number is 777. Then that means the Antichrist will fall short of God's perfection. I usually love symbolism, but this one falls flat. Since we know from the Bible that everyone falls short of God's perfection, that would qualify as everyone yielding the mark of 666. And that will not be the case. There will be a literal mark, not a symbolic one, and it'll be proven by the parallels in time. To me, the mark of the beast is made clear if we open up the rest of this verse. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Calculate the number. It's not symbolic. This is talking about something called gematria. In Hebrew, the original language of God's chosen people, the letters of the alphabet are represented by number values. And if you write down the corresponding number values for each letter of a name, you can total it up. And this verse is specifically talking about using this gematria to calculate the number of the Antichrist.
The next set of videos are all going to be focusing on this gematria and how there were many antichrists before this final one reveals himself. I wasn't a big believer in gematria until I looked into it. But now, oh yeah, this gematria is real. After a few of those videos, I will also do another video showing why the mark of the beast is 666. This is not symbolic. It has a real specific connection in the Bible. By the end of this summer, you'll understand why the mark is 666. Now the last thing to button this video up is to show you from an overview of the Bible to prove my interpretation on what the two beasts are.
The Bible clearly identifies the first beast as rising out of the sea, while the second beast as coming up out of the earth. We discovered from Daniel that this first beast will be a kingdom, and that the second beast will be a man, the Antichrist. If you take a whole Bible approach to understand this, then it isn't that hard. The second beast would be a man, because if you know your early Genesis, God created Adam out of the ground. Man came up out of the earth. So it fits perfectly that the Antichrist would be a man that is described as a beast coming up out of the earth. And the first beast being described as coming out of the sea also fits perfectly with a whole Bible approach. We know from Daniel that this fourth beast, which is the first beast of Revelation, is a kingdom. But why would a kingdom be described as coming out of the sea? Well, in the Bible, there's only one time that could be described as the Great Sea, and that is the flood of Noah. And if you know your early Genesis, Noah and his family came off the ark, and right afterwards, the Bible describes the table of nations in Genesis 10 that were established after the flood. But before the 70 nations that Genesis 10 describes, there was a first kingdom, and it was Nimrod's kingdom at the Tower of Babel. And if you want to see an in-depth look at that time frame after the flood, watch Noah and Ham, Identifying Nimrod, and then the Table of Nations. There was so much more going on if you connect all the stories together. So there was a flood causing a great sea, and after the great flood came the very first kingdom, and that kingdom was Nimrod's kingdom of Babel. And that is why the first beast of Revelation is a kingdom described as coming out of the sea. Well, the second beast of Revelation will be a man who came out of the earth, just like Adam did. A kingdom and a man known as the Antichrist are the two beasts of Revelation.
We have to start with definitions as we move forward talking about the mark of the beast. It will also be helpful in order to identify these beasts in the next year or two. Yes, I do know who they are. The parallels are coming together. Things will be connecting in ways you haven't heard before, both in the Bible and the parallels in real life. We'll also break down a whole book of the Bible that parallels end times. Get ready, it's all coming. Thanks for watching this video, and may God bless you all.